Tonight on To The Point, funding the Delta Tunnel project. What Governor Newsom is proposing in his budget revision and why many are against it.
This is yet another attempt to railroad Stockton and the Central Valley.
Plus, after weeks of debate, a controversial bill addressing child sex trafficking advances at the state capitol. What it now includes. The Supreme Court taking up a case that could change birthright citizenship.
As far as I see it, this order violates 4 Supreme Court precedents.
What's at stake for families nationwide. And we're going behind the gates of Folsom Prison, how a program is offering inmates a chance at redemption. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Tonight, people are pushing back on Governor Gavin Newsom's proposed budget cuts after he announced a projected $12 billion deficit just on Wednesday. At the state capitol today, leaders were urged to reject cuts to programs like Health for All and Hope Accounts that they say hurt working families, children, seniors, and people with disabilities. The group, which represents workers, immigrants, communities, and foster youth, says the state should look at billionaires and big corporations to help close the deficit instead of cutting vital programs.
We are urging the governor, we are urging our state leadership to ensure that these cuts do not remain in our budget, that we save our safety net, and we do so by ensuring that those who are most wealthy, that those who are profiting off of the backs of our poorest, off of the backs of our immigrant communities, pay their fair share.
The budget is currently just a proposal. The legislature will have to pass a balanced budget by June 15th. Tonight, groups are also opposing Governor Newsom's funding for the controversial Delta Conveyance Project, also known as the Delta Tunnel. The governor is proposing changes to ensure the project is completed. I want to go ahead and bring in ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen, who is here to break everything down for us. Jeannie, what can you tell us?
Alex, this project has been heavily criticized and the state has been sued multiple times. The governor is hoping to make this process more streamlined in order to complete this project, but those who oppose say the governor is wasting the state's time and money.
With the Delta Conveyance Project, which is in this budget and one of the most important projects in the United States of America and one of the most important climate adaptation projects in this country.
The Delta Conveyance Project is one of the state's most controversial projects, and on Wednesday, Governor Gavin Newsom reiterated his support for it in his Budget May Revise announcement.
We have got to move that project forward.
The state wants to build one 45-mile tunnel under the Delta to reroute water. It's estimated to cost $20.1 billion. In the governor's proposed budget, he recommends streamlining the process by making the permit process easier, allowing the Department of Water Resources to have authority over funding, and making it easier to get through delays caused by lawsuits.
Inappropriately using the California budget process to push forward and make policy changes that will have detrimental impacts on Delta communities and the environment.
Restore the Delta is a Stockton-based organization that has opposed the project for years and has active lawsuits against the state. The organization says the governor is ignoring how this would impact wildlife, conservation, and native tribes.
It's also writing a blank check to the Department of Water Resources to fund the construction of the Delta Conveyance Project despite recent lawsuits.
On Thursday, lawmakers within the state's Delta caucus sent this letter to the Assembly and Senate, urging them to reject Newsom's proposal, saying it's, quote, costly and destructive.
I'm pretty angry. This is yet another attempt to railroad Stockton and the Central Valley.
Congressman Josh Harder, who represents portions of the San Joaquin Valley, agrees with state lawmakers, saying it will only waste the state's money, especially when we're currently facing a deficit.
This more than $20 billion boondoggle will not create a single gallon of new water for anybody.
And the Department of Water Resources tells me the governor's proposal would save billions of dollars by avoiding delays, and that the project would be funded solely by local public water agencies, not the state's general fund. Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you so much. And we have streamed Governor Newsom's full budget announcement yesterday. You can watch it now on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app, and that app is free to download to your TV. Well, new tonight, PG&E is asking state regulators for a rate hike, but says your bill might not go up. The company just submitted its 2027-2030 budget proposal, and it includes a possible 3.6% increase to rates in 2027. PG&E says even with that hike, bills could stay flat because other fees tied to wildfire recovery and storm costs will roll off by 2026. It's up to the state to decide whether to accept PG&E's plan, and customer rates are not expected to see changes related to this proposal until January 2027 at the earliest. A controversial bill addressing solicitation and sex trafficking of minors passed in the state assembly today. AB 379 sparked weeks of debate at the Capitol, specifically over whether it should be a felony to solicit sex from minors aged 16 and 17. The bill passed today increases penalties for soliciting anyone under 16 or 18 under 18 if they are a victim of human trafficking. It also makes loitering with the intent to buy sex a misdemeanor, and it sets up a dedicated fund to support trafficking survivors using fines collected from offenders.
Sex trafficking and the exploitation of children are serious issues in California, and they are deserving of serious, strong, and nuanced legislative solutions. The bill before us today is a much stronger, more comprehensive bill than the original version.
Governor Newsom last month weighed in on the bill, telling ABC 10 he thinks it should be a felony regardless of the intended victim's age. The bill now heads to the Senate for consideration. A high-stakes case heading to the Supreme Court today. The first time justices are hearing a direct appeal from President Donald Trump in his second term. At the center, U.S. citizenship rights and whether a single federal judge can block a president's policy nationwide. Olivia Rubin has more for us for Washington Tonight.
Today, the Supreme Court weighing one of the most consequential legal questions of the Trump presidency. Can President Trump revoke the right to birthright citizenship?
So as far as I see it, this order violates 4 Supreme Court precedents.
President Trump signing an order to revoke birthright citizenship on his first day in office, part of his broader immigration crackdown.
We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous.
But the right to birthright citizenship enshrined in the Constitution. The 14th Amendment saying anyone born in the United States is a citizen, regardless of the legal status of their parents. Absolutely. Trump's order facing an immediate block by several lower courts. That question now also before the Supreme Court. Do local district judges have the authority to implement nationwide injunctions?
They operate asymmetrically, forcing the government to win everywhere while the plaintiffs can win anywhere.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson pushing back harshly.
Your argument seems to turn our justice system, in my view at least, into a catch-me-if-you-can kind of regime from the standpoint of the executive, where everybody has to have a lawyer and file a lawsuit in order for the government to stop violating people's rights.
But conservative...
Still ahead on To the Point, hope behind bars, how a unique program is helping to transform inmates at Folsom State Prison.
And tracking growing fire potential this weekend, we do have a weather impact alert Sunday and Monday for the Valley due to increasing fire danger. We'll talk about that after the break.
Plus, why seniors in a Central Valley care home are now being forced to relocate. We'll have the details right after the break. Welcome back in. Let's get over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef with a look at your forecast. Brendan, I know you're tracking a fire weather watch this weekend.
Yes, that's right. It is warm. It'll be warmer. And then this weekend, even though we're going to see a little dip in temperatures, we're going to see an increase in that fire potential. More on the fire potential in just a second. But let's start with where we were today. Made it to 86 in Sacramento, 88 in Stockton, 85 Modesto, 85 in Vacaville, 85 in Fairfield, 84 up in Marysville, 70s in the foothills, 60s in the high country. Temperatures today were about 4 degrees warmer than yesterday in Sacramento and across the valley. We were running about 3 to 6 degrees warmer than normal for the time of year. So we look at temperatures at the moment, still in the 80s in Sacramento, 83 in Sacramento, 79 in Elk Grove, 84 in Stockton, 84 in Manteca, 83 Modesto, 81 Vacaville, 85 up in Colusa, 83 Marysville, 70s in the foothills, 50s and 60s in the high country. And you can see running about 5 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. Starting off Friday morning with some clouds, we'll be in the 50s across the valley, a few degrees warmer than normal for the time of year. Tomorrow's another warmer day. We're going to be in those mid to upper 80s once again. Colusa may even top out at 90 on Friday afternoon. 88 in Marysville, 86 Sacramento, 86 in Stockton, 88 Manteca, 87 Modesto, 85 Vacaville, and 85 in Fairfield, 82 Jackson, 81 Auburn, 76 Placerville, and 63 in South Lake Tahoe. The weather pattern is changing, though. As we go into the weekend, this low pressure system is going to be working its way into the Great Basin. That is going to bring us some gusty north winds Sunday and Monday, which is why we've got a fire weather watch, which begins at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday and continues throughout Monday. We're going to see those winds picking up as we head into the weekend. Saturday is going to be some pretty gusty winds, but it's actually going to be onshore winds. So that's going to keep humidity high enough where we're not really looking at much fire danger, at least on Saturday. But then Sunday, you see that watch kick in and those winds start to pick up out of the north. Those north winds are dry winds and they're going to be strong all the way through Sunday and continuing into Monday, gusting 25 to 35 miles per hour across the valley. So we do have that weather impact alert for the high grass fire danger. Humidity down 10 to 20% only, so it's a good time to be fire ready and stay alert. Pack your go bag and make sure you have your emergency plans ready. Temperatures drop through the weekend because of that system that's passing to our east. 70s on Saturday, low 80s on Sunday, but again, watching for that early season fire potential. It is for the low elevations below 1,000 feet because the fuels in the Sierra are still pretty wet, but here in the valley, things are drying out quickly. Alex?
All right, Brendan, thank you. Next, on To the Point, we're going behind the gates of Folsom State Prison, how inmates say a program is giving them a chance to rewrite their stories and give back to the community. The To the Point team went behind the gates of Folsom State Prison, not to talk about punishment, but possibility. One program is helping inmates grow from the inside out with classes, community service, and a focus on character that's changing lives behind bars.
Folsom State Prison. Though it's California's second oldest institution, there's a new sense of hope.
Thank you, Jesus.
Behind the walls and inside rooms like this,
that became my true freedom.
ABC 10 got a rare look at inmates on a personal journey to rebuild themselves.
I started the Men of Character along with a dear friend of mine that was once a rival gang member.
The group Men of Character gives inmates a chance to rewrite their future with a simple but powerful question. How can we give back to the same community we once helped tear down? Established in 2019, the Men of Character connect with outside organizations, reaching those in need, from food drives to helping unhoused neighbors and providing backpacks for students.
It feels good to be able to help. For a long time, I spent not being that way.
The program holds meetings to discuss their lived experience, increase self-awareness, and address issues like
the unhealthy ways we deal with it, the toxic masculinity that our society perpetuates.
In these classes, we can hear stories of individuals that are on the same path. That has restored hope. And those are a lot of the things that we like to actually send out as a message in our workshops, is that you can actually find the hope in yourself.
And how to break down walls.
Being in prison for 12 years, I've never had relationships with outside of my race.
Prison is so segregated. Just to be able to break those boundaries down is a powerful thing.
Through mentorship, outreach, and partnerships with local organizations, Men of Character became more than a program. It became a path to redemption.
It's really helped me to want to be a better person and want to give back. It feels good to have people look up to you and to, you know, have people be inspired.
That redemption on display as Men of Character members graduated from the program in February. By helping others, this group says they found a way to work on themselves. Perhaps the most important key they needed to unlocking their future potential was
restoring hope. You come in here with no hope, especially for those that don't see that they will ever get out. When you restore hope, you see guys actually doing more.
This program for me has made me hopeful about what happens getting out of here and even the culture inside of this place.
With the belief that change is possible.
In this class, it's called the ripple effect, right? We had to understand that the ripple effect of our crime had affected not just our primary victims, but a lot of secondary victims. I have to change that ripple effect. So by living morally correct, I can honor my family, honor my community, so that's my hope.
The men of character realizing they can't change their past.
I'm on my 30th year. I was incarcerated in '94 to a life sentence.
I've been incarcerated coming up on 10 years. I'm serving 29 to life for taking somebody's life, in which still is not enough time.
I've been in prison for 15 years already. I'm doing 30 years for voluntary manslaughter and attempted murder. I am in here for murdering an innocent man.
I've been incarcerated for 12 years now. I was sentenced to 2 counts of assault with a firearm.
I've been incarcerated 9 years. I'm serving a life sentence, 25 years of life.
I've been incarcerated for 8 years, a string of robberies, armed robberies.
While some are eligible for parole and others may never leave, they can make the decision to make tomorrow a better day.
I need to work on myself to make sure that I never hurt anybody else in any way.
Being given an opportunity to actually make a positive change inside of my community through the men of character, through their guidance, through their mentorship, it really gave me hope to make that positive change.
Once you make those wrong choices, there are some actions you can't take back. I don't want to ever be put in a situation where my actions not only damages someone else's life, but my own as well.
This Old Folsom is actually where I have discovered myself. It has taken a long journey, a painstaking journey, but I am here.
Men of character members currently receive no formal credit for their participation. Their motivation is to grow, heal, and become better men. Tonight, families in Newman are packing up and moving their loved ones out of the Golden Age Living Facility in Stanislaus County. The facility's license holder, Kelsey Ramos, was recently found dead, leaving the state without a licensed operator. The state plans to bring in a temporary manager, but some families say they were told to leave by Friday.
You're moving around 95 and 96-year-old women with dementia and hospice, and we're looking out for our loved ones. We don't want anything to happen to them.
State officials say they plan to install a temporary manager to run the facility for another 60 to 90 days. Staff says that they will be staying on until the last resident is safely relocated. Next, on To the Point, Champions of Hope, how local officers are helping kids in crisis, one room at a time. We know that in news, stories are filled with challenges and hardships, but incredible things are happening every day, from neighbors helping neighbors to inspiring acts of kindness. Each week in our segment, Champions of Hope, we're sharing stories on people who are really making a difference in our community. And tonight we have 2 former and current police officers who are trading badges for paintbrushes, bringing hope and a new start to hundreds of children right from their own bedrooms. Modesto officer Sean Dodge and former officer Mike Karanchuk now lead the Healthy Room Project, creating safe, comfortable bedroom spaces for kids in need across several states, including refugees and struggling families. Now, the movement started nearly a decade ago after seeing kids sleeping on the floor in some tough conditions.
I think the Healthy Room Project is changing a lot of those views on law enforcement, and again, to reflect back or put it back on the officers, it's changing the officers' view of the community too.
Since launching, the project has helped more than 300 children across multiple states, showing how a little compassion and a coat of paint can really change lives. And look, we know there are so many more stories out there waiting to be told. So if you know someone who is making a difference, of course, our team would love to hear about it. You can always share a story with us by emailing us at tothepoint@abc10.com. Together, we can keep spreading a little bit of positivity, one story at a time. As always, thank you so much for watching and for inviting us into your home. If you have something you think we should also be looking into, you can also email our team. Again, our email is tothepoint@abc10.com. And To The Point does not end here. If you do want to watch stories that are featured on our show, you can always download our free ABC 10 Plus streaming app straight to your TV. It is absolutely free. And I hope you have a good night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Woohoo!